storage and clearance section. I was in Walmart today and I was checking out, and there's a guy being trained in at the checkout, and he turns to me and he says, "Are you Jewish?" I said, "How'd you know?" Gave it away. So he goes, "That's so crazy because I was just talking about Judaism yesterday with my buddy. We're learning about it in school and class, and afterwards my buddies." So I was like, "So now it's crazy to see a Jew." So I said, "Woo, it's me." Here's the horn. No. So I said, "So what'd you guys say about us? Give me the scoop." So he said that you guys have the best religion. I was like, okay, I can't argue with that. Those are his words. True story. I remind you now, my first year here, I moved to Texas from New York around 3.5 years ago. So I went to a clothing store, and I was checking out, and there also a lady, basically, she said, she wishes she was Jewish. I said, "Oh, why do you wish you were Jewish?" She goes, "Because then I'd be rich." I haven't got that memo yet. As you convert the deposit $1 million straight into your account. Those are my 2 Walmart stores. Either way, now I know why I hang out at Walmart. So,
it could be worse.
That's right. I have one other Walmart story, but it's not a good story, and that's a lot longer. Like this, in prayer, we talk and we, throughout in Shemona Esrei, and one of the tefillot in the prayer talk about thanking God. So in there, the rabbis say different ideas when we thank God, to give him thanks and to think at the time, pause, and to think, thank him for what? So you think about things that go on in your life to thank him about. So recently I've been learning a little bit about the Purim story. So when I came to think about something that I should thank God for, you try to mix it up. You don't have the same thing every day. Slurpees every single day. To say thank you for Slurpees could be to get a little extra, So he, after Walmart clearance, obviously. So that also ran out. So I was trying to think something that I could thank him for. So I was learning with the Megillah and the Purim story, and you realize they're really the leaders in Judaism is a big deal. Leaders. I mean, in the world, it's a big deal. If we had good leaders, all around, then it would be a better place. But the idea leaders are important to lead people and for people for direction, because there are a lot of times things come up. So in the Purim story, there's really 2 leaders and heroes, I would say, also in the Purim story. Mordechai and Esther, which is that's equality. Look at us, right? All about equality. A man and a woman, but you have Mordechai, who, for a moment, if we think about, let's say towards the beginning. So the Purim story starts off with there's this feast, and interestingly enough, it says that he was celebrating his 127 provinces. Did I get that right?
128.
128, thank you.
127. 127. Okay.
So he
127.
What happened? So the Medrash tells us, the rabbis tell us that what happened was, before that he had 117 more. He just lost 117 provinces because he had a big war, and he used to rule. He was either he was the first or from the original rulers of the entire world. The entire world, the Commonwealth at the time, was under his domain, and he lost the battle. There's a lot of things going on, shifting going around, some invasions of other countries. Basically, he lost 117. So you'd imagine you just lost almost half your kingdom. Why are you throwing a party? Right? Doesn't really make so much sense. You should be in the war room trying to figure this out. You shouldn't be throwing a party. So the Medrash tells us that he realized something crazy. Out of all of his countries that he had across the world, the Jews were all located within these 127 provinces. So you have that he lost, but he sees something in common with these 127 he was left with, were the Jews. And that he felt, hey, God's speaking to me, or someone's speaking to me, and he's giving them to me to do something with them, either to annihilate them, here's them, they're all yours, just get rid of them, whatever it was. He was celebrating the fact that there was this message to him from God or from his God, or whatever he was thinking, to take care of the Jews. So this idea of you have someone who's whose entire being at the time, for sure, was right now focused. He's making a party in a way, celebrating the fact that what he was left with is assigned to him, and then he decides. The story goes that Haman was there really and trying to encourage him to kill the Jews. So comes Mordechai, and he says, and this is a political party now. They're having a big party. Everyone wants to go to the party. Comes Mordechai, and he was part of the advisors, or he had friends that were advisors, and he knew what was going on behind the scenes. This wasn't just a party, because why would you be throwing a party? It must be there's something else going on. And he realized that the idea of the party was, in order we will know throughout history, you mess with the Jews, right? Then it's not too good for you. So he figured the best way to do it is to get them to sin. So the idea, which later on Haman tells them that the Jews are spread out, they're not together, there's no unity, they're lacking in unity. So over here also he's telling him, hey, here's the Jews, invite them to a party, get them to sin. You can't force anything on them because that's not considered a sin. You have to make them choose to want to do it. And it is to lead them in and to try to get them to sin. So Mordechai understood, theoretically, going to the party, there perhaps is nothing wrong. The problem is, once you start heading that path, things that can lead to your destruction, because what he's doing now is trying to destroy you in his war room, which he kind of is having a war room, Achashverosh, is to go destroy the Jews. So the idea is now, the way to do that is to get them to sin. So he's making this party in order to make them sin. So Mordechai calls a meeting, and he says, don't go to this party. So I was in there, Rabbi, what are you talking about? You're not in touch, this is politics, it's not your area of expertise. You go study the Talmud, and we'll take care of the politicians. We'll, give them some money, we'll go to the party, we'll have a good time. And don't worry, obviously we're not going to sin. But he said, no. Stay away from this, it's poison. The whole game they're trying to do is to get you to sin, don't do it. And at the same time, as the Gemara says in Megillah, Talmud says that Mordechai himself went to the party. He was the head of the drinks. Says him and Haman were the Sarah Mashka were in charge of the drinks. They're in charge of the food or etc. was going on. So imagine that the rabbi gets up and tells everyone, "Don't go to this party. It's not good for you." Everyone's like, "Hey, Rabbi, what are you talking about?" And he himself goes. What a hypocrite, right? So like, big talker. We can't go, and we should get politically destroyed and whatever, and get hated on. But he's the one making good. So a lot of they ended up going. So the idea was the faith at the time in Mordechai was lacking. It's called in Hebrew, it's called Emunah Sachamim. Faith in the rabbis and the leaders was lacking. And sure enough, later at the end of the whole cycle, when they were going to be destroyed, Mordechai decides with Esther, they decided they're going to make a fast there for 3 days straight. They were now listening to Mordechai. So there's this idea of, which could be because they were in trouble and they felt a need to listen to them, or they were lost. Most times, someone once told me, he says, big deal for religious people or for everyone, for Jews, people that have a religion. That's you. The idea is that what is it? When things are going good, you sit back and you enjoy and you drink your martini. When things are going bad, then then you blame God, and then you're like, "Well, God, where are you? Help me out here!" Right? So the idea is really an scapegoat religion. It's an scapegoat. So the answer is, it kind of is, because you're right. God is in control, and He's the one doing it. And the idea is that with the rabbis, it gives us a certain clarity and a leadership of where to go and how to follow, and ultimately, really, the Word of God and what we're supposed to be doing and how the game or how the world is going. That's kind of where they direct us. Interesting, it talks about right nowadays, I don't want to get too political, but on either side of the aisle, you pretty much lack of leadership. There definitely is of good leadership, and they keep on having this thing, which is funny. It's like the science thing with COVID. The science changed, right? So someone said, a comedian said, like, imagine every time at work we mess up, we say, "Oh, the science changed," right? That's we messed up. I came to the guy. I had to give a thing. I had to give an assessment, and then I was off. Like, what happened? Like, science changed, right? It wouldn't go over so well. That excuse. But here you have a leader, the guy, the head doctor, whatever it is, the government, the president, whatever it is, trying to follow them, right? Because they're the leaders, apparently, and trying to follow them, and they're just like, they themselves are lost. But I don't want to feel that I'm lost. That I kind of put my blind faith into them or to the media, whatever it is. But ultimately, they're also lost, and they have their own reasons why they do things and why they decide things. So I'm putting my faith into them, and they don't either know where to put their faith, so they're trying to save face. So they also make up lies or whatever they do, and rightfully so. They're trying to keep their job. Good for them. They're trying to make money, whatever it is, power. So everyone, like, where do we go? So even theoretically in Judaism, you would have that issue that you have a leader who himself, let's say he doesn't know something. So what do? Right? You have a dilemma, right? The old bad pun, I'm gonna say it anyways. If life gives you a dilemma, make the lemonade. So if you have, yeah, it's pretty bad. So if you have a, I heard this morning. I shouldn't have. Anyway, so you have, right? So what do? So the interesting, who would you say, right, the number one leader of the Jews in history is Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses. By far, hands down, no arguments here, right or left side of the aisle, Moses is the top leader of all time. At least for the Jews. So then what happens is, his name is Moshe, just spelled with a mem, a shin, and a hey. The Zohar says there are 3 times that Moses was not sure how to do something. 3 times, even Moses didn't know what to do. 3 times were how to create the menorah, what a matzah shekel Hashem was trying to tell him, the matzah shekel, which we're supposed to give. We're going to give it on God willing on Purim. We're going to give, there's a custom to give 3 $50, half of the currency that you're in. So for us, it's $50. You give it to charity on either the day before Purim or on Purim. So what does that mean? The whole concept of a $50 or a half that was a half a shekel. So what does that mean? He wasn't so sure about. God showed him what it was through fire, but God showed it to him. And also the last thing was the month, for the new month, how to bless the month and that whole business. Moses wasn't so sure, and God showed him. And these 3 places it says Hazeh. God had to point. This is a mach. It says Zeh. In these 3 places, this. That means that God had to actually go show Moses what they were. The Zohar says, interesting, these 3 things that the shekel, do in order, that the menorah starts with a mem, the letter mem. The shekel starts with the letter shin, and the chodesh was ha-chodesh. All those would start with a hey. Those 3 letters, mem, shin, and hey, in Hebrew spell Moshe. So the 3 times that Moshe wasn't sure what to do, Hashem had to go show him what it was, spells out the name Moshe. So there's a singer here a few weeks ago, Eitan Katz, and he said, that's kind of like insulting, right? So imagine like my name's Yehuda. So imagine like my name, the 5 times that I messed up in life, right? Equals my name, right? It's pretty cool. No, it's not cool at all. I don't want to remember those times. I don't want to be anything to do with my name.
Hope you don't have a really long name.
Right. Get my last name, Eisenberger, forget about it. So the idea is like, what are you talking? Like, I'd much rather my name equal the 5 times, right, that I won the World Series. I don't know anything, right? Anything that I would do, it would be a good thing. Why does it be negative? So one of the commentary that they say as follows. This is an answer to this question of what the significance of these 3 things to why it would equal his name, like a negative, seemingly a negative. The answer he gave brought down was which is I think a fascinating idea about a Jewish leader. Moshe is not perfect. He's human. And even he has to answer to somebody. And he's getting his direction from somebody. He doesn't make it up. He's not making up the signs to fit his whatever he wants to do and go along with it. Right? Or trying to, even if it's true, but try to lean it towards him. Or even if he doesn't even doing it on purpose. You never know, because if at the end of the day, I have my job on the line. I have to say something. So you never know where you're coming from, what angle you have, because of your own biases that you're saying something. So comes Moshe, and even him, he had certain times like, I don't know, and I don't know what to do. So even he had to go to God. So this shows the beauty of him, which the Torah says. One of his praises is that he was the most humble person of all time. The rabbis say, right, if you have a guy, let's say me, right? It's like, you ask me how good I'm at tennis or anything. I'm like, whatever, I'm not so good. I'm being humble. I'm not humble, I stink at tennis. Like, I really do. I played last summer, the first time I ever picked up a tennis racket to play tennis, and I hit the ball over the fence, right? Like, it's like really bad. Basketball, I'll take anything you want, but like in tennis, I'm a disaster. So in tennis, I'm like, yeah, whatever, I'm not so bad. I'm not so good. I'll be humble about it. Humble is nothing to be humble about. You stink, right? Moshe Rabbeinu, who's the greatest leader of all time, greatest prophet of all time, the Torah says there'll never be a prophet as great as him, and he was humble. The idea is that he was humble. It's a big deal for us to be humble. He was humble. What does that mean he was humble? The idea is he understood, what am I? I'm just someone that God created, and he was nice enough to give me some knowledge and to use. So I'm walking around with his knowledge and his ability that he gave me, enabled me to go and to help others and teach others and direct others. But all I am is theoretically a pawn, which is a beautiful thing. I'm God's pawn, and I'm helping lead other people. So the greatest emotion that add up to his name, Moshe, was saying these 3 times he had to go to God because even he understood, and that's truly who he was. He was someone. It was never about him. It was about leading him and leading others in the right direction. That's something that we have, and that you can tap in through Torah, which is what God gave to us to learn and to read up. And that is, a lot of times we come, even me, you come into, here's like I'm a rabbi, on stuff that we feel that we're more knowledgeable on. Let's say with COVID, what to do. So I read up more blogs on the internet than my rabbi. He's busy learning. So I read more blogs. I saw more YouTube videos about it. Right? People sent me more emails about it. So I'm more knowledgeable than him. So he's going to tell me about what to do? Nah. But the idea is that no, if he decides to do something based on enough knowledge, he felt was enough knowledge to go decide something, right? He's putting it out there and saying this is what to do. So I'm coming, but at the end of the day, I have my biases, things that I grew up with, things that my communities and my friends and wherever I came from, wherever my angles are, his angles, his knowledge, his main focus in his brain, his morality is based off God's work. So who are you going to trust? I may be, right, I'm basing my stuff off my morals, which are pretty much going to be from my surroundings, from my friends, from my society, from my neighborhood, from my community. But they're basing it off of pretty much of God. And then you come argue with them on what something means a lot of times, right? Doesn't mean they can't make mistakes, but then a lot of times if they don't know, then they'll ask their rabbi and they'll go higher up. You're talking about people that, there's a rabbi in Israel his rabbi came to Houston from New York, and he was the mole for my son this past summer. So he said he hangs out with one of the big rabbis in Israel, Rabbi Kanievsky. So for years, so he went on a walk with him. So he went and so years ago he was going on walks. Now he doesn't go for walks anymore, but years ago he went on a walk with him, and he used to talk to him learning, and Torah discussion. So what he did was he wrote up a paper of his own, his own piece of Torah and his connecting things, and gave it to the rabbi. And it was a double-sided paper, 2 of them. So the rabbi, he said he took out his pocket, gave it to the rabbi to look at, and he said, we're going to go for a walk in 10, 15 minutes. If you can look at, read it over before we go for the walk. We'll discuss it on the walk. So the rabbi unfolded it, looked at it, took the other paper, looked at it, folded it up, and gave it back to him. So he's like, no, I think the rabbi misunderstood. I would like him to read it, and we can discuss it on the way. He's like, I already read it. He glanced at it, someone else's handwriting, with all of their comments, all their connections. He read it like that. So here I'm a gum, right? So I learned the same thing as him, not nearly as much. And I'm like, I'm going to have my comments on what I think something is, right? He could read that fast. He's smart enough. They say Rabbi Cutler, there's certain rabbis, Aaron Cutler, he said you used to be able to look at a building and to see how many floors there are just by glancing at it. Yeah. They can count certain things that they're much, and then I'm going to come and their mind is fully Torah, is fully the work of God. I'm going to come, doesn't make any sense. So what do? I try to get from them. I try to connect myself to them, learn with them, find out about them, and to see what they have to say about things. That's the beauty that we have. We have the Torah, and we have it to learn it, to access it. And more than that, even the things we don't understand that are way above, right? It's a medical school. So I'm in first year medical school. There are doctors, there are surgeons that have been 60, 50 years, 40 years that have seen it all, asked questions, that have discussed it, seen all different types of cases. Of course I can go talk to them. They have the experience, they've seen it all. Anything I see, they probably saw. They probably dealt with all the different sides that all the dilemmas and things contradictions that I have, they for sure dealt with already and figured it out. So you come to someone, there's always rabbis higher and older that we can speak to, how grateful we have to be for that. So that's this idea. How much time do I have?
As much as you want.
Okay. So the one last thing I end off, there's
Or a lawyer.
There's a interesting, it happens in Megillah, there's a conversation between Mordechai and Esther. That's very interesting. When the edict goes out to destroy the Jews, which is, by the way, if you read up, there's a commentary on it that says, it's called Targum Sheni. Targum is a fascinating thing. He says, it's